Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Number, as always, 609-919-9200 on this Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. A lot of hockey going on last night. Capitals get their first victory of the series against the Penguins. 2-1 is that series. A crazy game last night in favor, though, of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we'll see what happens with Sidney Crosby, who did get hurt in that game. Rangers, we have Game 3 tonight, and also we got to squeeze in a little NFL draft talk. So let's go national right now and welcome in Zig Fracassi, who's kind enough to hop on board with us right now from Sirius. So I will see tonight at Madison Square Garden. I got a chance to talk to Zig for a few moments, actually, during the course of the Rangers' runs in the postseason the last few years. We welcome in Zig right now. Zig, my friend, appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
Zach, I'm doing well, my man. How are you?
Doing great. Always great to have you on the show. Let me just first ask you this with Crosby last night. You saw the play, and we'll see what comes out and if he's going to miss any time, but it's a scary situation. I know where I do radio, people don't like Sidney Crosby, but you never want to see a talent like that go down, especially with this injury history. Your reaction to what happened last night in Pittsburgh?
Well, first of all, I think I'm with you there because he, despite how great he is, there is a bit of a reputation of being a bit of a whiner and somebody who cries when he doesn't get his way, and sometimes you got to put up with that. But let's face it, the NHL is a better game when number 87's on the ice. To the play itself, Zach, first of all, I think when Ovechkin went to swing his stick, I think he just wanted to hit him hard, like up into the shoulder. It happened, and then it boomeranged. The stick boomeranged and hit Sid in the head. That's where I honestly think the guy was compromised because you start to see the way he goes down a bit or slides to the right a bit, and then Niskanen, the former teammate, anticipating contact, gets the stick up. Yeah, it was a little bit high, but Niskanen, a physical player, doesn't want to, have Crosby impose his will all over the place. They did play together in Pittsburgh, so I think he was just anticipating for the physical contact. Some people thought that maybe the 5-minute penalty and the game misconduct was a little excessive. I did too, but in the end, that's the right penalty because now there are reports coming out today, Zach, that Niskanen will not have a hearing regarding the Crosby hit, and we're still up in the air to find out if Sid, I hate to say it, hopefully he's not, but he may be concussed again.
If he is, how much longer is Sidney Crosby going to be able to continue to take these hits? We all seen in Philadelphia and also in the Jersey area, Lindros go down in that playoff series years ago. Could this be the end for maybe Sidney Crosby?
Gosh, I hope not, because as I mentioned, I think the NHL is better with him in it, but that's going to be a decision that he's going to have to make. And again, we don't know at this particular juncture, but if it turned out to be a concussion, then I think, there's going to be some people in his ear, his family, maybe the team doctors, maybe even the great Mario Lemieux, the Penguins owner, saying, you know what, we love you, but if this starts to be a quality of life issue, then you've got a tough decision to make. So I think only time's going to tell that, but the guy's not even 30 years old yet, Zach, so you got to wonder, could the end be near if it is another concussion? I hope not, but I think only time will tell with that.
It's a wait and see, no doubt about that. All right, let's continue with the conversation about the game last night before we get into the Rangers. This was another crazy late finish that went into overtime.
Yeah.
You have a 2-0 lead, and the next thing you know, everyone starts to think the choke of the Capitals is starting to occur again when you have the 2 late goals by the Penguins and then the Caps win it in overtime. What a thriller that one was.
Absolutely, and I started to question it too. As I even tweeted out, I go, I wonder how Caps fans would be able to explain what happened if the Penguins did score the game winner in overtime last night, but then Shattenkirk answered some doubts at least for one night, Zach. So this series going forward, I guess, again, the predominant storyline is going to be how the Penguins would have to deal if, and a huge if there, Sidney Crosby would be out for the duration of the series or whatever. Could this be one of those series-changing moves? Because I don't know. I still have my doubts about the Caps. I don't know if there's something, in there that's not quite there. I don't know if it's the intestinal fortitude. I don't know if it's the heart. It's the desire. I mean, you got Justin Williams, who's got Stanley Cup experience. You got Orpik, who's got Stanley Cup experience. But, guys like Ovechkin, Backstrom, they're supposed to be your leaders, your skill players. I don't see a lot of that there. So maybe this is one of those seminal games for them that, they get a huge break if number 87 is out for the rest of the series. Maybe they capitalize on it. But, boy, until they do it, I guess I take the approach of the motto of Missouri, Zach. It's the show me state. They need to show me first before they do anything.
Zig Fracassi with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show from Sirius. Zig, let's get to the Rangers. This should have been a series now that's tied up at 1 apiece. We all know what happened in Ottawa. The Rangers up 2 goals 3 times, can't able to close out the deal in that game 2. How do you explain what happened to the Rangers in that game 2? It looked like everything was going right until those final 3 minutes and change.
Well, that's the thing. And then they got the 2 shorthanded goals too, which was rather confounding. If you're an Ottawa Senators fan, I'm just wondering, maybe it was a case where like what happened last night with the Capitals and Penguins. Did the Rangers get a little bit complacent? Could they not handle the pressure? I know defensively they've come under a lot of scorn. I was curious as to why, Shea and Brendan Smith, who actually may have been their 2 best defensemen the other day, why they weren't playing more. I mean, you see McDonough and Girardi, supposedly your shutdown pair. They were on the ice for Pajot's goals, so it makes you wonder what Alain Vigneault was actually thinking at that time. And Lundqvist, it was one of those games where, the guy is 35, 36 years old, and, maybe it was some fatigue, maybe he didn't see the puck well, but whatever the case was, I think it was just a combination of them maybe letting up a little bit. Ottawa, they can lull you to sleep with their style of play, but beneath that, there's some very good skilled players. Bobby Ryan's woken up in the playoffs. I don't think you're going to see Pajot score 4 goals in a game again, but Brassard, the ex-Ranger, looks good. So I think it was just a combination of factors. Now the Rangers have to tighten this up. Are they going to make some changes going into tonight? Only time will tell, and I'm sure Vigneault may make some changes before the game starts.
With AV, and I know a lot of people complain about some of the decisions that he's made in the last few postseasons, but overall, he's had a lot of success in New York and in the time that he's been with the Rangers, going to the final, losing to the Kings. But the other day on Saturday, and we talk about the defensive pairings, he's made this mistake before earlier in the postseason in that game 2 against Montreal. I don't understand why he has so much confidence in Holden. Holden to be on the ice late in that game, I think it's an embarrassing move by the head coach in AV. Why do you think he has so much confidence in Holden?
Well, I mean, I've watched the kid play in college, and I thought he was pretty exceptional there. But as well as I do, playing collegiately and then playing in a Stanley Cup playoff series, it becomes 2 different things. So it just becomes one of those things where he thinks that he has the hot hand, and other coaches have done this too. You wonder why they stick with one player, even though to the fans and maybe to the media it becomes different. So I think you're just going to see probably, a change somewhat. I mean, that pinch that he had on the game-winning goal did not look good at all. And, even Vigneault, I guess, said he thought that the kid Holden had some good moments with him. So that's the thing. I think he's going to try to build his confidence up and continue to play him, but I think now he's going to have to reconcile that with the fact that, as we mentioned, with Shea and Smith playing as well as they did but not as long, he's going to have to reconcile the playing time there a little bit.
Talking about confidence, we all know the task at hand that the Rangers have to do. They can't afford to go down 3-1 in this series. They need to win both these games at home in Game 3 and 4. But I'll slow down a little bit, and you got to take it one game at a time. Where's your confidence in the Rangers tonight that they bounce back and get this Game 3 victory?
I would think tonight you'd have to do it. And the thing about it is, Zach, if we were talking about this before the Montreal series, you'd probably say you'd have absolutely no confidence because the Rangers couldn't win at home over the last stretch of the season to save their life. But since that point, they found their groove at MSG. They've been able to somehow get that home ice advantage. And, the thing is, they know their backs are against the wall. They know that Ottawa plays a deliberate style and they clog up the neutral zone. They know how good Carlson is. So I think you're going to go back to what you know best, and this is what coaches tend to do when, 11 goals, for example, were scored in Game 2. They'll code it as, well, we're going to simplify the game. So they may try to mirror what Ottawa does. We may have a pong match for all we know tonight at MSG as far as a pace in this game. It wouldn't shock me if there's like a 2-1, 3-2 type of verdict in tonight's game. So I think you're going to see the Rangers maybe dial it down just a little bit, but feed off the crowd energy at MSG. So if they win, if they have a game to have tonight, it's got to be it, or else 3-0. I don't think they're coming back from that.
And definitely you'd expect Lundqvist to bounce back. Even though the confidence level right now not high in this Rangers team, you have to expect the King to bounce back tonight. Zig Fracassi with us right now. Before we talk a little football, let me just wrap up the hockey conversation. The Flyers and Devils fans, they get good news over the weekend, going 1-2 in the lottery. Devils getting the first pick and the Flyers getting the second. Those two organizations, where's your confidence level of the direction that they're moving in going forward?
Well, I'll tell you, that was a bit of a mystery there. Those teams getting it, even though the teams with the worst records didn't exactly, have the right lottery draw. Flyers, they're a year removed from the playoffs. Some people are wondering, is Dave Haxtell the right guy? And I still think he is. I think he did a wonderful job at North Dakota. Of course, you see the pipeline they've had to the National Hockey League. I think their problem last year, Zach, was quite simply the defense, other than Provorov, was very inconsistent. Gostisbehere had more down nights than up. So he's got to build that confidence up. And they've got a pipeline of some really good defensemen coming, too, from the AHL. Other than Simmons, Giroux was not very consistent last year. Forward scoring, to me, just watching them from a distance, appeared to be, spotty at best. So if Giroux comes back to be the player that he is, I think that automatically makes him better. And Mason, he's too hot or cold for me to be the total number one. So I think they got to resolve the goaltending situation there. But I think the Flyers are still a cusp of the playoff team. And the Devils, hard to believe after what we saw in the late 90s and through the 2000s, they become a shell of themselves. There's no, Brodeur and obviously Stevens and that great defensive trio they used to have. But Ray Shero does have a reputation, Zach, of building through the draft. He did it in Pittsburgh. He did it down in Nashville. The guy knows what he's doing when it comes to player procurement. I think the Devils are a little ways away from being the playoffs, but I think you'll see a steady build with some of the young prospects that they have. Now, I wonder, maybe at some point do they have to maybe trade a Travis Zajac to try to get even more younger assets? I think the Flyers are closer to being a playoff team, but I think the Devils long-term, with Ray Shero's background, they'll be a team to be reckoned with in probably another 2 years.
Let's move on from hockey and let's get to the football. We all know the draft was in Philadelphia, so let's start with the Eagles. Barnett, Jones, Pumphrey, Douglas, and Holland, some of the picks. Obviously, Barnett going in round number 1. How do you evaluate the draft that the Eagles just had over the weekend?
Well, Zach, I'm one of these guys, I use my two favorite cliches, 3 years and on paper. 3 years meaning it really takes that long as far as being able to evaluate
Agreed.
A draft. And then on paper, obviously, you're looking at, what do they do as far as their needs? And to me, it appears as if they hit their needs. Barnett may not have been, the sexy pick, but all he does is get to the quarterback. And, the fact is that he's an energetic player. Before the draft, I said Sidney Jones, was the best cover corner in the draft. Unfortunately, he got hurt on his pro day. But this is one of those redshirt picks like what Dallas did last year. I love this player. I think he's absolutely a great player. I had a chance to interview the fourth-round pick Pumphrey on my show Sunday. He's a Darren Sproles clone. In fact, he said he looked up the Sproles, even though they're both like 5'8", so I guess you could look at him instead of look up at him. But Pumphrey, I think, got kind of lost because San Diego State plays late night on weekends. Not everybody gets to see them, so this kid's very elusive. Very curious about the Elijah Qualls pick, because here's a guy that can play the different types of defensive line play, can lay down, hand down and things like that. So overall, I thought the Eagles did very, very well. And from what I can tell, the city of Philadelphia, they were raved about how they handled this draft.
They were unbelievable, Zig. I think they should have the draft back here next year. I'm not going to say that it should be here every year, because I think there is an importance to go from city to city. But the draft, the Philadelphia, no arrests, no citations, and they booed the crap out of the commissioner. I thought it was unbelievable.
That was great, wasn't
And then
it?
also, how about the Drew Pearson thing, giving it back to the fans a little bit? I thought that was one of the better moments of the draft.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And I was listening to him and that rant, and it was great. And the thing was, I don't think he even had it premeditated, but the way they kept egging him on, then he just started going after it. I almost fell off my chair when I was watching that.
It was great. Hey, getting back to Pumphrey, since you were able to talk to him, we all know the amount of yards that he accumulated in college, most from a running back. And just when you look at his game, everyone's going to be a little apprehensive with him because of his size. But in terms of projecting to this level, I have a feeling this is a kid that's always been told, no, you can't do it, you're too small. I have a feeling he's going to surprise some people next year. How about yourself?
I'm with you. Again, I've seen guys, Zach, that are as small or maybe even smaller than him go on to have productive careers in the National Football League. It's obvious the kid has the speed that you want, and then once he gets into the open field, forget about it, because he's able to take the play up and make huge gains on it. Let's face it, he's at 180, he's a little bit on the light side. Didn't have a great combine, but when you look at it, though, he knows how to play. He knows it's a physical game. And the fact that he's been able to take physical punishment throughout his collegiate career, he knows these guys in the NFL are going to be bigger, stronger, and faster. But coming across as he did, he also sounded like a very smart individual. So he knows what's going to happen here. Plus, I think the value with him is that he's going to probably be able to use on the special teams as well. So this guy in his role as a scat back returner, I like it quite a bit. And if Darren Sproles, they said the same thing about him when he came out of college. Look how long he's lasted. I think Donnell Pumphrey's the second coming of Darren Sproles.
Wrapping up with Zig Fracassi, who's kind enough to hop on board with us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Just going to the Giants, moving up the turnpike. We all expected the Giants to address offensive line. Did not surprise me. They went with the tight end, though, in round one, just because of the lack of depth with this offensive line class. But how about the Giants not addressing offensive line until, I believe it was the sixth round? That's a big issue still for the Giants, or the big boys up front.
Yeah, Biznawadi, kid out of Pittsburgh, apparently injured throughout his collegiate career, so you got to wonder about that. Although there seems to be a bit of upside about him, but just going through that synopsis makes you wonder how durable he is. But, you look at the flip side here, Zach, Ingram, the kid out of Mississippi, I'm sure they would have loved to have O.J. Santiago, but here's a guy that can line up as far as receivers, he can line up in the slot, so he can also block a little bit. So all of a sudden now, you got OBJ, you got Brandon Marshall, you got all these weapons, Sterling Shepard. It's going to be a matchup nightmare for the NFC East defenses in general. Tomlinson is a guy that always seems to be around the ball, so all of a sudden that interior of the D-line looks very good. People have raved about Davis Webb, thinking that he can throw the ball in cold weather and ultimately be Eli's successor. Gallman was a productive player out of Clemson, And Avery Moss, I think because the other kid got taken in the first round by the Patriots out of Youngstown State, that seems to open up some eyes there. So I thought all in all, the Giants did a decent job. I agree with you. Maybe they could have drafted another back or even an offensive line. But you get a chance to add to, a very productive offense with a guy like Ingram. I don't think you could pass that up.
With the Giants, we all know what the Giants' defense was a year ago, and we knew the offense did have some significant flaws, and they have addressed some of the issues on the offense, not necessarily offensive line, but like we've been talking about with Ingram, and then also adding Brandon Marshall in this offseason. Can the Giants give you – I know it's premature, but how much of a chance do you give the Giants to get to the Super Bowl this year?
It's a reasonable possibility. I don't think there's any reason why they can't. I mean, you look just quickly around the NFC. Did Green Bay address their running back issues and their defense? Can Atlanta overcome the psychology of blowing a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl? In Dallas's case, do the sensational freshmen have the sophomore jinx in Dak and Zeke? So you got to wonder about these particular issues. The Giants, again, had a solid year last year. Jerry Reese spent that big money on the free agency and defense. So are they as good as they're going to get? And then offensively, again, I don't think, and you brought it up, that they didn't address the offensive line. I still think now they need to get another back to complement Paul Perkins, who I do think can be that number one back. So there's no reason why they can't. Although another thing you got to watch too, he is now entering his 14th year. Eli, you're going to start to see the signs of slowage there, and then God forbid does he get hurt? Would Davis Webb be ready to be called upon if needed? So I think that would be probably my biggest question going into 2017 is if Eli's continues to play at a decent enough level, or you start to see the signs of slippage, and God forbid he gets hurt. So that would be my biggest concern. But I think the Giants could be and probably will be a playoff team once again. Still think I've got some questions about those other issues we talked about for them to reach the Super Bowl.
Hey, you wouldn't want to see Eli get hurt, but wouldn't it be something if not even Davis comes in, but how about Geno Smith if he leads the Giants to the playoffs? That would be a real dagger to Jet fans' hearts.
Oh, my gosh. You imagine that storyline would be all over the Daily News and Post 24/7, man. Are you kidding me?
Hey, Zig, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. I'll see you tonight.
You got it, Zach. Anytime, brother.
There's Zig Fracassi joining us on the Zach Gelb Show from Sirius. Does a great job, and you can tell. You bring up anything to Zig, he will know it. He will know how to break it down, and that's why I bring him on, going from Penguins to Capitals to Rangers, Senators to the Eagles to the Giants, and then even squeezing in a little bit of the Jets there at the end. 609-919-9200. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. What we'll do right now is we'll take our final break of the day. When we come back, we talked a lot of football. We talked a lot of hockey. Now it's time to chat some baseball. We'll give you a local baseball report coming up next on the Zach Gelb Show. Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Don't change that dial. We'll be right back with more sports talk right here on 920 AM or 920thejersey.com.